Welcome in. Game time decisions right here on SportsGrid. I'm Kevin Walsh with you on a Thursday night with, admittedly, not as much to get to as I'd like. I mean, we still have a board, no make any mistakes about it. But the NBA with a national TV slate that, what? It's awful. But we'll get into it. There's some action, no doubt about it. College basketball with 3 ranked teams in action. We will hit those as well. We can, of course, follow into those unranked lands if there's any opportunity that jumps out. It also means the hockey slate must get our attention. Hockey guy the other night forcefully took 5 games, went 2-3. I mean, I consider that a winning night. I mean, is that how that works? I mean, now what are we doing here? Now what's going on? Are we asleep in the back? No, what's going on? Here we go. I got to call a play. Let's wake it up, all right? We're live here with you on this Thursday night. If we can open this up, great. Honestly, not positive. But what we're going to look for is tonight's NBA slate. It's the starting point here. Or tonight's NHL slate. That works just as well. The Rangers play a big one against Vegas. Just we're back and forth. We're back and forth, and it's okay. We're going to go with the flow. That's all we can do for the people. We'll start with the NBA slate. Chicago-Toronto is a national TV game. Really interesting spot for the Raptors. Of course, since I've last been with you here, we saw the Raptors make a really big trade, sending Pascal Siakam to the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers are in action tonight. No Pascal nor Tyrese Halliburton, still nursing the hamstring injury. We've not seen him since that injury he picked up against the Boston Celtics. Let's get our radio audience into the fold. Appreciate all those who were with us here on this Thursday night. I'm Kevin Walsh. It is Game Time decisions across the SportsGrid network. And we take a look at what we're actually going to be getting out of Toronto tonight. It's the second leg of a back-to-back. Last night, beat up on Miami, which was impressive. Can they do it again? Bruce Brown set to make the debut. A very interesting game on tonight's slate. While Toronto has the signs of a tanking team, they've gotten back a lot of relevant players. Of course, Emmanuel Quickley and R.J. Barrett from the OG Anunoby trade. And Bruce Brown, could he be flipped? Could he stick around? I'm not sure the Raptors are going to be bottoming out the way everybody thinks. I do think the spot is difficult tonight. The Knicks laying a huge number to Washington. We did just find out that we're going to be without Josh Hart, the New York Knicks, tonight. For them on the second leg of a back-to-back, they played Houston last night. Could be an uptick for Dante DiVincenzo, something I want to look into here. His props were eye-catching a little bit earlier for me. I think he could be a tempting number tonight. We mentioned Indiana, Sacramento. Memphis and Minnesota, huge spread. Memphis, as injured of a team as you will see through 40 games in NBA history. John Moran out for the season. Desmond Bane picks up another one. Marcus Smart picks up another injury. I mean, it is just incredible. And then you have this red-hot Utah Jazz team as a home dog tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder. We will look into that for some opportunities. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander needing a bounce back after OKC dropped a pair of games in Los Angeles to the Lakers and the Clippers. We will move over to tonight's hockey slate here. As I was saying, Vegas and New York looks like a big one here. Late night start out in Vegas. Colorado, Boston's always going to be eye-catching here. What do we get out of the Blackhawks as they continue to play hockey without Connor Bedard, and what do any of these performances, if at all, impact his odds to win the Rookie of the Year? Dallas, Philadelphia, Minnesota, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Again, a couple of interesting spots here. Calgary's been playing some solid hockey, but Toronto coming into their building, that's going to be an interesting task. We're going to have Joe Madden with us here a little bit later on in about 20 minutes or so, so we'll get her hockey picks tonight on this Thursday for you. To pull this back out, though, because it is a bit of a lighter card and we're heading into a very important divisional round weekend, want to put eyes on the NFL bracket and just where some of the numbers are sitting before the divisional round kicks off. Saturday coverage begins at 10 a.m. here on SportsGrid. Myself, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi are with you on SportsGrid. And then on Sunday, we begin at 9 a.m., so some flip start times for you there that you're going to want to keep up with. But we know what it's going to be. It's the 1 versus the 7 on the NFC side, as well as the 1 against the 4 seed. That's the Saturday slate that we've been gifted here. Some of the early conversations around those games from the Green Bay, San Francisco side, how does the weather impact things? A lot of rain. If this game did become more ground-oriented, while Aaron Jones is red hot, 4 consecutive games, playoffs included, with 100-plus yards, Green Bay sets up everything through their aerial attack with as good as Jordan Love has been. But it's Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is still fully healthy. We haven't seen CMC in a little bit now. What does he look like heading into this game? An important question to ask Doc, which we will on Saturday. But it maybe plays this game a little bit towards an under. Some other injury news, though. No Marlon Humphrey for the Baltimore Ravens this weekend. We know the Texans' pass attack can be vicious, and without the top corner for Baltimore, that's going to help C.J. Stroud and this Texans offense feel more comfortable heading into the game. The Sunday slate, Detroit, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, and Kansas City. The Detroit-Tampa conversation right now, it just doesn't feel robust. It's the sleeper game, if you will, of these 4, where Buffalo-Kansas City right now is very narrative-driven. Whether it's Buffalo needs it, everything about them is a complete collapse and failure, to, well, what do we do about Mahomes playing on the road for the first time in his postseason career? There's referee conversations going on now, which I am sure nobody is interested in having, and you'll look at your Super Bowl odds here. This 30-1 crop, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, and Houston, I said at the beginning, I just didn't think a team would be capable of beating Dallas and San Francisco in consecutive weeks as a road team, which obviously was going to be the case. And that remains true for Green Bay. It keeps them largely uninteresting for me in that spot. Houston is at 33. It's the same number as Tampa Bay. What I would say to the Bucs, and why I think you could argue the Bucs are not getting really any respect here from the odds makers, is they are by far the shortest dog of this trio. And from a power rating perspective, even if the books believe the Texans and the Packers on a neutral field are better than the Bucs, which I think the book odds makers do, it's about getting there. And Tampa Bay at the moment, again, through their own lines, does have a better chance to get there because they are more likely to win the divisional round. It does make those big numbers interesting. Let's put a quick pick on the board here. And it is, I'm sure you've heard, Big Ten Ben's birthday. So we get an under in the Big Ten for our good buddy Ben Stevens here, with the lead man from Minnesota under his 15.5 points. That is Dawson Garcia. Garcia is coming off of an excellent game against Iowa. The difference between Iowa and Michigan State is massive. The Hawkeyes are an offense-first, run team that's not great at defending. Michigan State, slow, outside the 250 in tempo, inside the top 25 in defensive efficiency on KenPom here. For Garcia, the sample size against teams that profile like Michigan State, there's Maryland, there's San Francisco. I'm trusting the Big Ten under here tonight on Dawson Garcia. We'll go to the full card next.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices. And we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
And I tell you what, there's 1,000,001 coaching vacancies right now. Brady Cannon is a candidate for the Vegas Raider job. Like there's so many jobs available right now. NFL teams are coming to the grid for our talent. So there's that many head coaching spots available right now. I'm going to submit my resume.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Live on SportsGrid, it is a Game Time Decisions on a Thursday night. The NBA board is where we begin. 5 games on this slate, involved in 4 of them. I will let you know Knicks Wizards is the exception, though with a 7:30 tip, it could change possibly if the Dante DiVincenzo numbers look correct. He was not good last night against Houston. It is the second leg of a back-to-back against a bad Washington defense. It is why the total is still in the mid-230s, and the Knicks are a 12-point favorite. With Josh Hart out, I wouldn't expect the books to move DiVincenzo too much. They've jumped him up now 14.5 points. Again, I'm going to see if I can, just kind of through some of our breaks here. That was a bit of a late piece of news. If it is worthwhile of jumping in on Dante DiVincenzo, the thought process there, if you look through last game, DiVincenzo missed out on a lot of minutes. I mean, Thibs was in his bag against the Houston Rockets. Despite this being a 15-point win, they went out there and played 43 minutes for OG, 41 minutes for Hartenstein, 37 Brunson, 34 Randall, and then 30 minutes to Hart off the bench. Only 19 minutes allotted to Dante DiVincenzo. So it could be an uptick there for Dante. Something, again, we will see. Where we are involved in the NBA tonight starts with the Raptors and their money line. Played it at -130. I will do a quick look for you if there's any better numbers there. They're not going to be far too off from that range. In fact, there are better numbers now. -126 is out there and available. For me, I would rather leave the 2 points alone, and I will play the money line. Look, the Chicago Bulls have been playing a bit better ball recently with getting back some of their key guys like Nikola Vucevic and Zach LaVine. This is more spot-driven than anything. Toronto has sent out a lot. And Pascal Siakam, we know they sent out OG a while. If you look at last night's starting lineup, it's Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Gary Trent Jr., Jonte Porter only getting 18 minutes, and then Scotty Barnes. Their double-digit bench guys in terms of minutes were Dennis Schroeder, Grady Dick, Chris Boucher, Thad Young. So now you have to flip around and play this on a back-to-back after you dominated the Miami Heat last night. And make no bones about it, they routed Miami. They won the first quarter by 23. They won the second quarter by 12. But they ended up losing the third quarter by 14, which forced probably more minutes than it should have on some of their key guys. So now you go, and I know Bruce Brown is supposed to play, but he's still learning something new, and you have to go out here and run it on a back-to-back. I don't like the spot here. The Raptors are just 2-5 straight up when playing on the second leg without rest. The Bulls are 3-1 straight up when booked as a road favorite here. I'm going to trust Chicago. But one thing to keep your eyes on is Emmanuel Quickley's points, rebounds, and assists. This number last night against Miami was posted at 31.5, dropped to 29.5 within the last 5 minutes before tip. and went through that number despite a bad shooting night from Quickly with, again, still somewhat limited minutes. Only 30 minutes for IQ, had 17 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds. I've seen some people talk about his triple-double tonight. I get it, it's a big price, but definitely keep your eyes on Quickly moving forward. Jazz Thunder, I'm going to another road favorite here. That's Oklahoma City laying the 3. Maybe I am not giving Utah enough respect, but I think this is the most respect that we've seen from the books give the Jazz, and this is an attempt to sell high with a Thunder team right now who has lost 2 games in a row. This is the 4th time that has happened this season. The Thunder have not lost 3 straight games all year long. They are 2-1 against the spread in this spot. The lone time they failed to cover was laying double digits in Washington, was still an 8-point victory there for Oklahoma City. During this run, we saw the Thunder, or the Jazz rather, catch 6.5 from the Denver Nuggets. Nuggets are priced stronger than OKC in the market, but like 3.5 points, I'm not so sure. We've obviously seen OKC have some success this year against Denver. So that, for me, maybe felt a touch too strong. Also, if you go back about 5 weeks ago, and I know a lot has changed, but it was just a number where OKC laid 12.5. Hosting Utah did cover that number. Are we sure this is that much different now, this much later? And again, what I think is a really nice spot here for Oklahoma City, which has the benefit of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander coming off of one of very few performances this year where he failed. I mean, forget scoring 30, which the average is obviously per game. Didn't hit 20 points last night. I believe just the 3rd time all season long we've seen that happen for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Consecutive games of under 50% shooting. Last time out, shot at under 40%, which again is a rarity for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's why I'm betting the Thunder here. I could have bet his props at a bounce-back spot, but I'm going to trust SGA here and the Thunder as a whole to cover the 3 on the road. I'm going to play the Grizzlies team total tonight. Again, Memphis is very, very depleted and now has to take this depleted roster on the road. But we have, look, they've been without Ja for a while. Okay, and 2 of those games they played without Ja were against the Suns and the Mavs, and they won both of those games outright. In fact, if you go back before that with Ja, they beat the Lakers on the road outright. So they have 3 consecutive wins on the road as a dog. But I'm not looking for them to win tonight against Minnesota. Just go over their team total, which is listed at 100.5. The Memphis Grizzlies scored 116 in their last outing at home in a game where they shot it at 37% from the field, suggesting some pace there. They got a 4 out of 20 game. 4 of 20 from Jaren Jackson Jr., 3 of 14 from 3, tons of volume, which is definitely something to keep our eyes on with no Desmond Bane and obviously Ja Morant. But this is a good spot for the Memphis offense to just hopefully cruise through this number, whether it's with a good performance or the back door staying open. The Minnesota's laying a huge number tonight. Despite being on the second leg of a back-to-back, 3rd time this season we've seen they've already seen 3 times, where Minnesota has been on this second leg, and opponent team total overs are 3-0 to the over. They allow over 123 points per game in this spot. Now, one of those spots was a game against the Celtics where it went to overtime. You want to remove the 16 that Boston scored in OT? Fine. If you just go regulation, it's still 118.3 points per game, what they've allowed in the 3 prior spots where they're playing without rest. And the average team total in those games is 112.5. So while tonight's number is much lower, the allow that you're seeing here from the Minnesota Timberwolves is much higher. So I like this spot for the Memphis offense. And then one you've heard me talk about plenty, but De'Aaron Fox over the 34.5 points plus assists. His number on points is about 28.5, and the assists is about 5.5. Still going to get some tempo out of Indiana, and this is a Sacramento team returning home after 2 consecutive losses, especially a devastating one where they blew a major lead to the Phoenix Suns. I like what we get tonight out of De'Aaron Fox over the 34.5. We mentioned the Dawson Garcia under 15.5 points. That'll start in about 10 minutes there with the Minnesota-Michigan State game. My favorite bet tonight, probably across any sport, but certainly from the college basketball world, is Janelle Davis over 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists. The star player of FAU is in a nice spot tonight. playing a Wichita State team that ranks well outside of the top 100 defensively, but inside of the top 75 in pace. 6 times this year we've seen Davis play a top 75 pace team, averages 32.8 points, rebounds, and assists per game in that spot. 4-2 overall on that number here. This looks like a good spot for me for John L. Davis to get active against this Wichita State team and play over the 28.5 PRA. So just to run through that card for you one more time. Bulls money line -130. Thunder laying the 3 on the road against the Jazz. Grizzlies team total over 100.5. De'Aaron Fox over 34.5 points plus assists. On the NBA side, college hoops for me. Dawson Garcia, Minnesota, under 15.5 points. Janelle Davis of FAU over 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists. We are going to transition to a break here. When we come back, Joe Madden stops by for a critical breakdown of tonight's NHL slate with a lot of big games, as well as perhaps a couple of looks towards the NFL this weekend. We're back with you here. Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
And I tell you what, there's 1,000,001 coaching vacancies right now. Brady Cannon is a candidate for the Vegas Raider job. Like there's so many jobs available right now. NFL teams are coming to the grid for our talent. So there's that many head coaching spots available right now. I'm going to submit my resume.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Thursday night Game Time Decisions continues right here on SportsGrid. Now joined by Joe Madden to help us with the hockey. But also, let me say, and I'm sure, Joe, rightfully, you've taken at least one or two victory laps because you joined us last week. I don't know if it was a Thursday or a Friday. Green Bay Packers outright. A lot of belief in Jordan Love. A credit to you, a great call.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I could not believe that they actually came through and got it done. They played such a fantastic game out there. But something in my gut was just telling me Dak would do what Dak does in playoffs. And with the momentum that they were rolling in with that game, I had to roll with it, Kevin.
You know, it's incredible. People ask me at times, like, oh, are your picks biased? I bet Dak, as an Eagles fan, to not throw a pick in that game. I wish my picks were biased as I was watching that play out. Even if I lost money, there was certainly some joy. We'll put a look towards the weekend NFL, but quickly, let's do some hockey here because it is a big slate kind of taking command on a Thursday. And we'll begin in Ottawa, the Senators and the Montreal Canadiens. Where's the value in this game, Joe?
The value is all over Montreal, and I know Montreal's coming in here on the back-to-back, Kevin, but this Senators team is just not playing good hockey. They're allowing these goals to come in, and I think the Montreal Canadiens will break that streak of struggling on those back-to-backs here. They're coming in with great plus money at plus 152, and I think they can get it done. Cole Caulfield for them has been playing incredibly hot as well. You can look at him for the anytime goal, that anytime goal for Cole Caulfield coming in at plus 155. He's been absolutely pivotal to this team. So great ability to get some plus money in this one. I just don't trust the Senators defensively or goaltending wise. Corpusalo in net for them tonight. Now Sam Montague not in goal for the Montreal Canadiens, but I think offensively this team will step up in this one. It will be a higher scoring game.
And I'm sure the anytime goal scorer prop is more enticing when you're dealing with a total at 6.5 right now, minus 144. That means there maybe could even be a 7 or so out there. So that certainly lines up nicely. Let's go to the game featuring the Dallas Stars tonight on the road against the Philadelphia Flyers, but booked as the favorite at minus 140. What are you looking for in this game?
I absolutely love this one, Kevin, and I'm going to take the Dallas Stars here on the money line. I think they can come out and get it done. Jake Ottinger is in net for them tonight. I'm looking to play on him over the 28.5 save shots on goal. I think he absolutely stands on his head versus the Philadelphia Flyers here. He is yet to lose a game versus the Flyers, and when we look at him versus the Flyers, his goals against average is hitting at only 1. So he's come out phenomenally strong. I feel like the Flyers will struggle to score on him here. I'd look at their team total under that 2.5, and I wouldn't be shocked if Jake Ottinger came out and was able to get the shutout in this one. We know how strong he's been back from injury, if I can talk today. And he only allowed 1 goal to the LA Kings. That team's so much stronger. I think in this one here, the Flyers, this isn't a team that scores a lot of goals. And I know they've been playing hot as well. Ersen in goal for them. I think this is a low 3-0 kind of win here for the Dallas Stars. So call me crazy. I don't hate the Dallas Stars either. On that puck line laying 1.5, you're getting that at plus 176. But I do think the best bet is the Stars here on the money line and Jake Ottinger over 28.5 save shots on goal.
This is a curious question, Joe, because those 3 plays, obviously there seems to be a lot of correlation when you look at them there. Do you is that how you like to approach it, where you kind of see a team with an advantage and then attack through multiple avenues?
Yeah, it absolutely is, especially when I'm looking at a goalie that has been riding so hot. And against that team, I start looking at the team total of that team, and we're getting great plus money on the Flyers. The Flyers also are not a team that scores a lot of goals. So this is a team that's averaging 2.89 goals per game. So we're not seeing that 3 hit very often in their matchup. So I like to look at those kind of things, and especially when you're looking at an under and you're trusting in a defense. Now, everyone was betting the Dallas Stars prior when Jake Ottinger was out, and it was Scott Wedgwood in net. To the over, because this team can put up those goals. And that's why I'm staying off the total for the full game, Kevin. So looking at all those aspects, but when I love a game like this, definitely hitting on those 3 different areas.
Flyers are 14-1 to be the lowest scoring team on today's slate. Let's talk some Calgary here. The Flames are in a matchup against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Toronto always getting respect in the market. And once again, same story, minus 130, minus 135 money line here on Toronto, 6.5 total. What are you looking for here?
Okay, Kevin, you talked about being biased in your sports betting, and I'm not biased at all. I'm the first one who will bet against my Calgary Flames, but this isn't the spot here tonight. The Toronto Maple Leafs are blowing way too many leads. They're off that loss to the Edmonton Oilers, and now they've lost their last 4 games. They're on a hard road trip here, and I think they struggle again versus Calgary. Calgary's playing hot, and I can't understand why they're a home dog. With them being a home dog here, I'm going to grab them. I think they have every ability to find the back of Martin Jones's net. This is a goaltender that I actually don't trust him. And while he does have solid numbers right now on the season, it's just a matter of a couple of games here. I really do feel before someone scores 4 goals on him in the first period and he's yanked off of that ice. So give me the Calgary Flames here on the money line. I really do think they play a strong game. But one thing, don't be afraid, you guys, to live bet Calgary if they go down in that first period. Edmonton was able to come back on Toronto, and teams always come back on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So you will get more value if Toronto goes up in that first period. I'm not worried about it, though. I think Calgary will fight back, and they are a team that's able to fight back in these games, Kevin.
You know, it's funny because, again, you know, I'm not shy about it, more outsider when we do the hockey breakdowns, but there's this thing about Toronto where every time I see them, it's like, oh, they're a road favorite. They're supposed to win. Like, that would probably go wrong. Just because the amount of times I've seen them break Cam's heart. I feel bad. Cam Stewart here does an excellent job. He'll be on tonight with Gabe with Sports Rage. You just know it. It's like, oh, look, 21, 13, and 8. They're probably having a nice season, but this is just how it goes for Toronto. But 3 different goal scorers for you in this matchup?
Yeah, absolutely. William Nylander of the Toronto Maple Leafs has been held off the scoreboard since getting his contract signed. I do think he probably gets on the scoreboard tonight. Dan Vladar in net for Calgary. So he's coming in at plus 130. I am leaning to a higher scoring game. So I'm okay taking all 3 of these guys. I also am looking at the younger player, Connor Zary, for so much value here for the Calgary Flames. He's coming in at plus 320. He was so hot for quite a long time. He was rolling, getting those points, assists, and the goals, but he slowed a little bit as of late. I think tonight is his night to hit Martin Jones. And then Blake Coleman has been absolutely fantastic. In his last 4 games for Calgary, he has 5 goals and 3 assists. I see another nice goal coming tonight. He's just rolling. It's so hot for the Calgary Flames.
All right, and then one more on the ice. The Preds in action here. Nashville going up against the LA Kings. Who are you playing on the money line?
Oh, you got to look here at the Predators. Another road dog here on the money line. I love the value we're getting with this team. They are playing really solid hockey with Philip Forsberg out here. I like him to come out and have a strong night, get that anytime goal. The Kings are a team I can't trust, and they're coming home off a long road trip. This was an unsuccessful road trip. So in a lot of these cases, it's a play on team for me, but I just can't get over how poorly the LA Kings have looked as of late. They went 1-5 on that road trip. I think the Predators will be too much for them in this one and can squeak out that win. I can't pass up on the value here, Kevin.
All right, Joe, and then I want to head over to the NFL. Again, look, the world is your oyster off of the Green Bay Packers money line. What are you looking for this weekend? Let's start with that Saturday slate. Texans go to Baltimore. Packers go to the Niners.
I got to look at the Texans here in the first half, plus the points. Now you can get them plus the 6.5 at minus 120 in that first half. I love Baltimore and I love the Houston Texans and what we saw out of them in that last game. I think Baltimore off that extended rest, we see them start slow in that first half. Lamar on 12 days or more rest is 1-6 against the spread. But I do think the Baltimore Ravens are the stronger team. So I'm not willing to take the Texans for the full game, just the first half, plus the 6.5. I think it's solid. I have to go back to the Packers. They did me so good last week. I don't have the confidence on the money line here versus the 49ers, though. It is just the Packers plus the 9.5. I know it's so public in this one, but I do think this team has come out so strong offensively. I love what we've seen out of Jordan Love. The defense didn't blitz in the last game, and if they blitz in this one, they're going to struggle because Brock Purdy is so strong against that blitz. They also have to tighten up against the tight end because we know what happened in that last game versus the Cowboys. They gave up so many touchdowns to Kincaid in that one. So I do think George Kittle could break away in this game if they don't contain him. So we'll see what they're able to do. But I do think they keep it within this number. It might be a late backdoor cover, but I'm confident plus the 9.5.
Yeah, looking for the dogs on Saturday, Joe, and then quickly favorites on Sunday.
Yeah, it's favorites all day on Sunday. I'm going to take the Detroit Lions here over the Bucs. I'm still not a buyer in Baker Mayfield. I don't know what he's going to come out like in this game. I think the pressure starts to get to him, and I know he's looked so phenomenally strong, but I do think Jared Goff at home in this game can get it done. I'm going to ride on the Lions to get the win and the cover. And then the Buffalo Bills. The Chiefs just haven't looked like the Chiefs offensively like we've seen in past season. It's got to be the Bills here to come out nice and strong at home in this one. It's a short number of 2.5. I think they win it by probably a touchdown. Not gonna lie. So I'm gonna take the Buffalo Bills here, laying the 2.5. I might extend this one up by game time here. But Patrick Mahomes for the anytime touchdown. How can we say no, Kevin? It's plus 600. I can't say no to that.
That's a big number. All I need, Joe, is Mahomes to not finish that game with -1 rushing yards. And I'll be happy. I'll explain it to you during break. But that's all I need out of Mahomes in that game. And then hopefully the Bills actually do handle their business. Great stuff, as always, from Joe Madden. Coming up next, Coach James Young here. A lot of hoops.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
And I tell you what, there's 1,000,001 coaching vacancies right now. Brady Cannon is a candidate for the Vegas Raider job. Like there's so many jobs available right now. NFL teams are coming to the grid for our talent. So there's that many head coaching spots available right now. I'm going to submit my resume.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. in the mix. Little game time decisions on a Thursday. We're rolling now. Great stuff out of Joe Madden. Gazillion plays on the ice. Every time we start talking hockey, I'm like, I got to get involved. I don't even, like, I told you the other day, hockey guy, do I know what I'm doing? It's questionable. It's questionable. Should I ask Coach about some hockey and get him in a little hot water? I won't do that. Coach James Young, JY, how you feeling here, man, on a Thursday?
Hey, wait. My brother know a little bit about hockey. I know a little bit about hockey.
You're not allowed. You're restricted.
The Rangers play tonight? No, they played last night. Hey, listen, JY is in the 40-40 club. We are inviting all people in. Hey, call me the Black Conseco. We're ready to roll, baby. We're ready to roll. Come on, K-Dub. Let's roll, baby.
So unhinged these days. This guy's so unhinged. If you got to understand, I tried to give him a talking to before we got going here. There's nothing I can do to contain this man. All right, JY, here's where we begin. FAU, Wichita State. Again, we're not on, see the opposite side trend, right? That's fun, okay? There's a new trend building. You and I on the same college game, backing the same team in a positive fashion, but not the same bet. It happened once with Purdue. You won, I lost. And then with Houston, we both got kicked in the face. Let's not have that happen again here. FAU, Wichita State, what do you like?
No, we're not getting kicked in the face. Wichita State's getting kicked in the face. I'm going to go with team total over 85.5 tonight.
That worked for me.
Over
that worked for me.
Tonight versus Wichita State. They averaged 82.4 points per game. Wichita State just gave up 63 points in the second half to Memphis. 112 points. FAU is 14th in offensive efficiency. Both teams are in the top 160 in pace with ready? Wichita State being 62 in pace, which means they're going to do what they're going to do, which is run. The problem is they don't stop no damn body. FAU team total over 85.5 tonight.
I am on Janelle Davis over the 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists. JY playing a team like Wichita State, who's fast, 60th in tempo, but bad on the defensive side. I think Davis can eat in every single category here. Is he a part of the reason you're on this team total over? He's their best player. I have to imagine the answer is yes.
Yeah, I mean, I just think with all of their players, they have too many guys that can score and they can hit you in different ways. And I just think, when you're a team that's on the road, right? And I want people to understand this. If you're a team that's on the road that runs, you don't go home and slow the game down. Like you don't. That's not what you do. If you're slow at home, you're slower on the road. Wichita State's going to try and run. Dusty May's crew is going to gladly follow, even though they're only like 150th in pace. It's also the fact, like I said, 14th in offensive efficiency. I think John Davis is part of it. I think they all eat tonight. They go over that 85.5.
I want to ask you about FAU quickly. So, this is a team that I mentioned how kind of that Arizona win was going to bother me because it was going to allow FAU to kind of keep their heads above water. But on KenPom, which I know it's sometimes people are, but it's not that it's a Bible, but they're 22nd on KenPom. And it is not that, the reason people use it is good sifting through the fake, if you will, right? Ole Miss, and I know a lot of people are impressed with what we've seen this season from Chris Beard, had that team unbeaten to start the year and cracked the top 25, 70th in KenPom. So it does a good job kind of sifting through the real and the fake. And as the season goes on, it gets better. But I still just can't get over a team that has lost to Charlotte, Florida Gulf Coast, and Bryant. When we talk about the best teams in college, Jay, like UConn would never, ever. And I know I'm going to the number one team in the country, but I just look at FAU and they're going to be there. And all anybody ever wants in the tournament, right? Experience, guard play. They have it. They have it, JY. But they also have the three of the worst losses of any top 25 team in college basketball, which says to me they are absolutely ripe for the picking when we're doing a 5-12 game of 4-13.
Well, and here's the thing. They're getting respect of what happened in last year's tournament. I want people to understand this. The next team that we'll talk about, probably my next pick, remember, folks, they were a basket away from not even making it out of the first round. I want people to understand that. The other thing is this, Kevin, and I was asking around higher ups if I was allowed to talk about it, and I'm going to briefly say this. The NIL is ruining college basketball. And one of the teams it's ruining is FAU. Kevin, none of those guys got NIL money last year. Guess what? They had to keep all those kids. So what did they all get? Got that check. That check is changing how kids are. Like, you used to go to college because you wanted to get to the league, right? Or you wanted to get to Europe. These kids are going to college to get NIL money. And as a coach, you're dealing with a lot of you-know-what because these kids are getting paid no matter what. And when you start taking teenage kids in their early 20s and you're giving them $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, there are problems. Folks, look at the teams that are pumped in a lot of NIL money. FAU is one of them. We obviously see what's happened at Villanova. Like, when you start pumping this NIL money, it becomes a very slippery slope for these colleges and especially these coaches, because what is the motivating factor of we got to play you to get you to the league? There's no motivating factor because the kids are getting their check no matter what.
For me, though, JY, because as the kid, I'll push back. I mean, Hunter Dickinson was in an absolute arms race for his services, and a lot of people believe he's been a top 5 player in college basketball. So if all of a sudden kids on FAU got, guess what? They deserved every dollar they got.
Agreed.
And then it is up to the staff to make sure that the kids want to. I'll tell you this, JY. There's a reason Nick Sirianni might find himself unemployed this week. Okay? And that's because a lot of people feel like he lost that team. Relative to college basketball, there's a lot of coaches that would kill for that roster. And if all of a sudden, because now they're making a couple of dollars, they can't beat Bryant, there's a lot of blame that goes around for me. Let's button up college basketball. We'll stay in the American. Memphis tonight is in action. They play South Florida, top 10 Memphis, that is. What are you looking for here?
Well, let's stay in the American with the team that I think Kevin would agree is the best team in the American Conference, and that is Memphis. And this is a Memphis team that could score. Think about it, they've scored at least 75 points in 13 of the last 17 games. Memphis could struggle defensively, but they can flat out outscore you. They are at home, and they are, I think, a borderline team that go to the Final Four, and they're playing better. Even though they're not great defensively, Kevin, they're getting better because Naquan Tomlin is there as the rebounder, as the shot protector, as the rim shot blocker, rim protector. 10.5, I like the Memphis Tigers to cover that spread tonight.
And then lastly, you're involved here with this Illinois-Michigan game. The Wolverines, they were able to win on Monday against Ohio State. People wondering if that was a turning of the corner moment for the Wolverines. What do you see here in this game?
Points. I see points. I see two teams that can get up and down the floor. I see two teams that will not be afraid to shoot the ball from deep. You've seen Illinois get themselves into some track meets, and I think this is a game which, even though Illinois surrenders, 67.4 points per game, and they're holding to a low shooting percentage, I think that this Michigan team can actually score with them. And I think Michigan, remember, last year, 91-87 double overtime game. Fireworks galore traditionally between Illinois and Michigan going back to the Lou Henson, Steve Fisher days. I think this game's going to have a lot of points. Give me over 153.5 in this contest.
All right, Joe, and then we go over to the NBA side of it here. Washington is in the Garden tonight. This awful Wizards team recently were cracked at home by the Detroit Pistons minus Cade Cunningham. What do you think they can manage against the Knicks, who are on the second leg of a back-to-back?
Well, I think the one thing you've seen with New York traditionally since the trade of OG Anunoby is a more of a commitment to defense. 109-94 win versus Houston. Listen, the Knicks aren't going to run the ball up the floor, right? They're in a second leg of a back-to-back. Tibbs is going to grind this game down. I'm going to stay away from the total overall. I'm going to stay away from the line, and I'm going to go under 110.5 for the Wizards team total. I think this is a game that the Knicks are going to play half-court basketball. They're going to lock them up. They're going to grind it out under 110.5 for the total for the Wizards. And then I'm going to go with Isaiah Hartenstein, double-double at plus 150. Listen, I'm going to say this right now as a Knicks fan. Mitchell Robinson should never start a Knicks game again. Never. Because this team flows better offensively, passes the ball. He's been rebounding just as good as Mitch, been a good shot blocker, and he's a better scorer than Mitch. Does a better job of catching the ball. The reason why I also like it at plus 150, Daniel Gafford is out. Marvin Bagley, who just got traded, who plays no defense, may be the starting center tonight. That poses problems. Give me Isaiah Hartenstein, double-double plus 150.
I'm trying to figure out who is going to get the bench bump with Josh Hart absent. It is Hart's first missed game of the season, which actually caught me by surprise. My thought initially was the Dante DiVincenzo minutes could go wild, but maybe they don't with the second leg of a back-to-back. I would actually, and this is probably not going to be listed, but a Miles McBride prop would do wonders for me. There are some Quentin Grimes props, but there's nothing but negative chatter right now around Grimes and his status within New York, so that makes it a little bit tricky. Maybe Grimes is out of New York. One guy who already is, that's Emmanuel Quickly. JY was really good last night in Toronto's win against the Miami Heat. What do you expect tonight?
Well, here's the main thing, folks, you have to understand. With Pascal Siakam getting expendable and traded, there are no other shot creators that I would see on this roster. So with a team like Chicago, which, at times would employ, Alex Caruso, but does Caruso guard him? Does he guard Barrett? So to me, I think he can get loose. I like Quickly to go over 5.5 assists tonight. And I will say this, yes, there are rumors of Quentin Grimes being traded. He is in Tom Thibodeau's doghouse. But if the Knicks are going to trade him, don't they think they should be trying to maximize his value, not minimize it? Points prop is 8.5. He has played sneakily better since the trade. I'm with you. I would jump on Deuce right away. But especially if we think that it's going to be a blowout, that's more minutes for Grimes. Quentin Grimes, I'm adding it to the list, over 8.5 points tonight.
All right, we'll take our chances then with Quentin Grimes. We'll see what he's able to bring to the table tonight. By the way, someone sent me this on Twitter, and I do appreciate it. This is from earlier today, but the Memphis game, with the weather conditions, apparently, they've encouraged all their fans to stay home. So it could be an odd atmosphere tonight for that game against South Florida. We'll see if it has any impact there for the 10th ranked team in the country right now, the Memphis Tigers. JY, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you at 7:40. We'll close this out with an hour number one best bet next.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
And I tell you what, there's 1,000,001 coaching vacancies right now. Brady Cannon is a candidate for the Vegas Raider job. Like there's so many jobs available right now. NFL teams are coming to the grid for our talent. So there's that many head coaching spots available right now. I'm going to submit my resume.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Back on SportsGrid, closing out this opening hour with some college basketball. Only had 2 picks on the college side tonight. The first one is off to, I would say, a solid start here. Dawson Garcia, about 12 minutes into this first half against Michigan State, has 5 points. And that's 15.5. So, he's one three away from turning it. What jumps out, though, is the lack of workload at the moment for Garcia. Only 2 shots, has paired that with 2 free throws, but doesn't have a ton of work early in this game, which would be very ideal. But if he keeps up the 100% from 3 rate, that would be problematic. I like the Garcia prop. I love Janelle Davis. We talked about this with Coach a little bit here. He's in on the FAU team total over, which is good. That is more and more opportunity here against Wichita State, who ranks outside of the top 100 on defense, more importantly, inside the top 75 in pace. We have seen them play a very quick schedule, enough quick teams at least, in Florida Atlantic this season. 6 different opponents that are top 75 in pace. And in those games, Davis averages 32.8 points, rebounds, and assists. To give you the specifics, it's 20.8 points, 8.3 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. So that would be over what is his booked points prop tonight of 18.5 and rebounds prop of 7.5. Not really over the assist prop, but that 3.5 assist prop is at plus money. This is one of those things, I probably would even prefer his rebounds plus assist number. We're not there yet in college basketball. We're not. And in fact, not every major book offers PRA. This is a DraftKings number, not even a market available on FanDuel for this game tonight, which I have noticed throughout this early season college basketball prop. If you love college basketball props, the better menu at the moment does seem to be kind of shifting over that way. But nevertheless, 28.5 PRA for Janelle Davis and FAU. That game is starting in about a minute. We're back in less than a minute. Rack the card, get a same-game parlay from Davis Maddock with you here. It is a Thursday night on SportsGrid. Live on SportsGrid, I'm Kevin Walsh with you. It is a Thursday night Game Time Decisions. And in an hour, in-game live will start. You'll see Joe Ranieri there. He'll be with us here inside this hour, as will Joe Lisi. Excited to talk to both of them in a bit. We will be resetting the card in a moment, which features 4 NBA picks. There's 5 games. The only game I'm not on is the Knicks-Wizards game. Josh Hart misses his first game tonight. You go to the Knicks game yesterday against the Rockets, bench minutes, double-digit minutes came for just 3 players. Quentin Grimes played 17, Deuce McBride played 11, and then 30 bench minutes for Josh Hart. It is why I thought, okay, could Dante DiVincenzo see the uptick? Josh Hart, I know he kind of 14 rebounds he had in that game against the Rockets, but he slots into the DiVincenzo 2-guard role if they need. A very versatile player for the New York Knicks, kind of that do-it-all scrappy guy that they absolutely love, and I know Thibs loves as well. Does that exist elsewhere on this bench? Precious Achiuwa, Malachi Flynn, these guys from the Raptors trade have not really ingratiated themselves. Fournier's obviously fallen out of favor right now. It's why the Deuce McBride prop would be interesting to me. I don't think you're getting much of any value on Quentin Grimes. 8.5 points is his number. The 3 prop is 2.5. It's good plus money to the over, but still not the direction that I'm looking to go here on Grimes. However, why it's very tempting to try and I'm sure bet Grimes, we don't have the McBride prop, is the size of this line. Even though they're on a back-to-back, the Knicks have obviously been good this year at the Garden, 12-5 straight up. They're running away from the Wizards. We'll bring our radio audience in here on Sirius XM channel 159 across the SportsGrid network. Game Time Decisions on a Thursday. But if the Knicks run away from the Wizards, I mean, Quentin Grimes, could he get 25 minutes tonight? Could he get 28 minutes tonight? That's a difference maker on the prop. But Grimes is coming off a 17-minute, 11-point performance, which is why I know JY mentioned his numbers. I probably should just stop talking about the Deuce McBride. McBride is really the guy, but I don't think that's going to be posted anywhere and available. They did up the Dante DiVincenzo prop to 14.5. His PRA for the game is 22.5. You could just do a workload play and expect on the second leg of a back-to-back. He only played 19 minutes last game. Now going from the Rockets defense to the Wizards defense, it's not a bad look. It's not a bad look. Something to contemplate. Another thing to contemplate, though, here would be a same-game parlay. That comes to us from Davis Maddock on Thunder Jazz. Here's what Davis has cooking tonight.
All right, guys, we are back for another same game parlay over on the FanDuel Sportsbook, keeping our attention on the NBA tonight. We actually got a pretty sneaky good game. The Oklahoma City Thunder traveling to play against the Utah Jazz. We are going to begin by taking the Thunder on the spread, -3.5. They did not have a particularly fun road trip to Los Angeles. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played really poorly on the second night of a back-to-back. They got thrashed by the Clippers. Paul George, their former teammate, scored 38 points, but they are looking to turn things around against the resurgent Utah Jazz, who have absolutely clobbered the Raptors, the Lakers, and the Pacers over the last week of the season, even beat the reigning champion Denver Nuggets as well. But I think they're finally going to meet their match here. We are also going to take the under on 244 in this game. That'll be the first 2 legs of this same game parlay. We are, of course, anytime we are on the Thunder side, we are going to take Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to record 25 or more points in this game. And then to juice it up even further, we are actually going to add Lauri Markkanen to score 20 or more points in this game. Obviously, he is averaging 24 points per game. He has scored over 20 points in each of his last 5 games. We just want to juice this up a little bit further. I think we do get a competitive game here between 2 pretty good teams in the Western Conference, but I think it's a little bit tighter on defense, so it goes under, and I think the Thunder prevail, so we're taking the 3.5. This 4-leg same-game parlay is going to give us plus 444 odds, OKC -3.5, under 244, Shai to score 25 or more, and Lauri Markkanen to score 20 or more. Good luck tonight.
I appreciate the breakdown there from Davis on the same side as him for one of those legs with Thunder laying the points, laid 3 on the road with OKC. It's a nice spot. This could very well be annoying to people that I'm still talking about Dante DiVincenzo, but I know there's opportunity with Hart out there. So if you look at the 6 highest minutes played performances from Dante this season, 27 or more minutes in these games, he scored 21, 25, 19, 16, 13, and 38. So you can find his prop at 14.5. You could find a 13.5 at minus 132. I think that would be the look. I think I'd rather DiVincenzo than Grimes. But I'm not sure if I'm going to get there on it. I know. And I know it's a lot of time to spend on a bet I probably won't make. But it was, I thought, worth exploring nonetheless. Do not take the rebounds plus assists, though. He's landed under that number more times than you would anticipate. I mentioned him on the Thunder laying the number tonight. For me, I think this is the top of the market on the Utah Jazz, and I'm going to look to sell that number here with Oklahoma City having lost 2 in a row. They've not lost 3 in a row all season long. I don't think the Jazz are the team that makes that happen. I don't think there's many teams that could make that happen for Oklahoma City. If this number is going to land 1 or 2 for a Thunder win, so be it. I'm going to lay that 3. I think this number here is a bit light at 5. I'd probably back off, but at 3, I got to play the Thunder. I'm also playing the Bulls money line. I just think it's a tough spot for the Raptors to do what they did against Miami in consecutive games, shorthanded post-Pascal trade, still figuring out a lot of things. I mean, how many guys on this roster tonight playing key minutes were there 2-3 weeks ago? Not many. Right, IQ, RJ Barrett, now Bruce Brown going to step in here. I like this spot for the Chicago Bulls. I like the Grizzlies team total over 100.5. Minnesota playing on the second leg of a back-to-back for the 4th time this season. First 3 times, 3-0. The opponent team total over, allowing 123.7 points per game in those spots. And then De'Aaron Fox, over 34.5 points plus assists. You guys have heard this plenty from me. But Fox off of a loss has always been an intriguing option. This team is off 2 losses in a row, including possibly their worst of the season, a 20-point blown lead against the Phoenix Suns. Kings return home for the first time in a long time. They'd played 5 in a row on the road 11 days ago as the last time they had a home game. And they were also smoked in that one. I think you get a good performance tonight. I would, if I was to bet the side, I actually would lay it with Sacramento against Indiana, but I'm not on the side. I'm on De'Aaron Fox over the 34.5 points plus assists. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Joe Lisi and start to get some preliminary weekend thoughts here as the divisional round is creeping closer. 9.5 in favor of Baltimore with a dropping total of 43.5. 9.5 in favor of the Niners with a rising total at 50.5. That Sunday slate, Buffalo lays 2.5 to the Kansas City Chiefs with a total at 45, coming down a touch. And then possibly Joe Lisi's favorite game of the weekend, the Detroit Lions and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Detroit a 6.5-point favorite, total 48.5. We'll talk to Joe Lisi next here on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
tell you what, there's 1,000,001 coaching vacancies right now. Brady Cannon is a candidate for the Vegas Raider job. Like there's so many jobs available right now. NFL teams are coming to the grid for our talent. So there's that many head coaching spots available right now. I'm going to submit my resume.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Big players make big plays. Joe Lisi up next right here. How do we feel, Joe? I feel like you're a big-time player. Don't be worried about being a locker room guy, right? You make plays. That's what it's all about. The guys around you need to adjust and adapt.
This is what it's all about, Kev. Bright lights, big city, divisional playoff round on the horizon. I'm chomping at the bit, baby. I love these four games. We know I love totals. I have some prop bets, too. I'm salivating over the prop bets.
All right, so what do we start hot? I mean, Devin Singletary receiving, is it still?
Already on. Is it? I altered it to 25 plus. 6 to 1.
25 plus.
Listen, check down. Get him out in space on a linebacker and a nickelback.
So how much belief do you have in the Texans as we sit here on this Thursday night?
I have a lot of faith in them. I have faith in both dogs on Saturday, both 9.5-point underdogs. I'll say this in regards to the Texans. They have a quarterback that's hot, just like Jordan Love for Green Bay. C.J. Stroud has stepped up. He's erased all the critics. He's a veteran entering this divisional round. And they have a defense that made adjustments, Kev, in terms of that second meeting against the Cleveland Browns, right? That was the biggest thing, was that the experience of Joe Flacco, Amari Cooper ripping them for 264 receiving yards in that ball game, right? He only had 5 receptions, 52 yards. He was a non-factor, and DeMeco Ryans dialed up a defensive game plan to force turnovers and limit Joe Flacco. That was a dominant defensive effort. Let's not forget, they played week number 1. So what does he have in terms of storing and keeping Lamar Jackson in the pocket? Catching 9.5, I think they're live, baby. The kids don't know any better. They're just playing fast and loose, and I like that recipe.
I know you do. I think one of the most interesting things, though, is where currently the Texans team total sits, Joe. 16.5. I know you're not much of a team total guy, right? You like your straight totals or your straight sides, whatever it might be. But that is one of those numbers, when, like 17 points for that offense with what we've seen from them. Now, there's supposed to be some wind in the forecast there. I don't think there's any rain expected, though, in this game. When you see a number like that, I don't think there's anybody out there that is still doubting Stroud in this offense. It just suggests that the books believe Baltimore has the best defense by a mile, but we heard some negative news around Marlon Humphrey today. He'll be out for this game.
Yeah, and that's going to create some mismatch issues, right? Can Dalton Schultz get loose in regards to that offense? We know about Nico Collins, and, you know, forget the weather. I talked about it last night on radio. Nico Collins and C.J. Stroud playing at Michigan and Ohio State, respectively, in late November, early December. This is not going to be a problem going on the road on a field, AstroTurf field
in Baltimore. So erase that. I just think it comes down to, can the Houston front seven dominate the way they did against Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford last week? They held them to 2.8 yards per carry. That was a concern considering the fact that 2 weeks ago they gave up $188 to Jonathan Taylor. That goes into Lamar and Gus Edwards. If their front seven could stop the run, now you're talking long third downs. Now you're talking a game similar to Lamar Jackson and Baltimore losing to Indianapolis in their house earlier in the year in overtime. And then that's where it's a lower scoring game, and it favors the Houston Texans to potentially win the ball game outright.
Well, so that's what I was going to follow up with. I know you. There's not many times you like a dog and don't think they can win the game. Now, college football is a little different because these teams catch 20, 30, right? That's different. But in the NFL, 9.5, you like Green Bay? Well, they could beat Dallas. They did. The Texans are 13-1 to win the AFC. Green Bay at the moment is 950. I know we both took some Green Bay before the season, but do you think people right now should be giving legitimate consideration, or is it a scenario where you like them this week, but next week you probably wouldn't have the same confidence?
No, I mean, again, they have everything you want in regards to potentially a dark horse to steal the championship. They really do. The only thing I think when you look at them versus Kansas City and obviously Buffalo's rushing attack with Josh and James Cook and Isaiah Pacheco maybe a little more dominant than what we've seen out of Devin Singletary. But, I mean, C.J. Stroud is just as good as anybody in terms of putting up points. So, again, if he's going to average 270 in this game and in the championship game, who's to say they can't steal it? I mean, nobody could stop Nico Collins. That is the biggest thing. Show me a defense that can lock him down, and then maybe I'll say that. But we've seen Baltimore be susceptible to mediocre offenses in given spots. So, again, catching 9.5 with D'Amico in a rematch type of situation. And the kids, the fact that these kids are young, they're not going to just buy into the narrative. It's Lamar. It's the number one seed. We're nervous. They're going in fast and loose, and I like that.
Yeah, and I think the Ravens, look, and it doesn't mean it's going to play out this way, but they don't come in as scary as their record or seed because they've been in this spot before and they blew it.
Right.
So from that angle, I get it. If we go to Sunday right now, are you surprised that Buffalo still sits at 2.5? Or do you think this line would have worked to 3 by now?
No, just because of how dominant Buffalo is at home as opposed to the road, right? Even though they picked up critical road games against L.A. and Kansas City in terms of the month of December and January, they were a struggling road team. They were a dominant home team. And at the end of the day, look at what they did to Dallas when Dallas walked in there. This is Pat Mahomes' first road playoff game. I think that factors in. And I said this, too, as well on the radio to Ben. I said, you look at Kansas City's effort last week in Arrowhead. Dominant effort. You can't take away from it. They rushed for $147 and 4.3 yards per carry. But is that more of a product of what Miami's defense really was and that team as a whole, gutless effort, as opposed to really what Kansas City did? Kansas City grinds you out. We know that, but that's what they've been doing all year long. They've struggled to get 30 and 35-plus points per week. Josh Allen is running the football consistently. As long as they shut down or at least contain Isaiah Pacheco, I think Buffalo's going to win this ball game, but I do lean to the under. I think it's more like 24-20, a Buffalo win.
I think we'll see when we get there. The early thought for me is you can't book a Mahomes-Allen total at 45.5.
No, I understand.
That's the early thought for me, Joe.
Right.
No, I know the first game went under at 2017. I'm going to try and pull up what that total exactly was. And again, I know information changes and spots change, but that number 49.5 on the first meeting, they drop it 4. I don't know. That's not that one we're seeing differently early.
Yeah, but it's not. I'm not gonna it's not for me. I feel more confident about Buffalo than I do the total.
Right.
And again, if I take the total, I'm going to put it in a parlay, so it's not going to be straight. It's just going to be an added leg, to catch something. But again, I mean, if you're looking outside props, I mean, keep an eye out for me if you want a dark horse. Mecole Hardman for Kansas City, 8-1 to score a touchdown. I like that value.
I want to see if Gabe Davis comes back. He's had some big games in his career against Kansas City. Obviously, the playoff game that year, he had 3 touchdowns. So I think that'll be interesting. Joe, I'm going to ask you this. We were together on Monday night when it all fell apart. Do you think this week we find out that Nick Sirianni will be fired as the Eagles head coach?
I don't think he will, Kev. I mean, unless you're going to get Vrabel. I mean, here's the thing. If it's Vrabel, possibly. If it's not Vrabel and Vrabel just had a meeting with L.A., I don't think they fire him. I wouldn't want a coach like Belichick or an older-minded head coach. Certainly not Dan Quinn. I want a guy like Vrabel, blue-collar guy that I told you could kick this team in the ass. Outside of that, I don't want. I would keep Sirianni.
Yeah, again, that's the problem that I keep coming back to with the Sirianni thing is Vrabel is available. Maybe we'll have word by the time we're doing some pro football today on Saturday. Look forward to it. Great stuff, Joe.
Yep.
All right, awesome as always. Joe Ranieri up next right here.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro football today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
And I tell you what, there's 1,000,001 coaching vacancies right now. Brady Cannon is a candidate for the Vegas Raider job. Like there's so many jobs available right now. NFL teams are coming to the grid for our talent. So there's that many head coaching spots available right now. I'm going to submit my resume.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Back right here on SportsGrid with Kevin Walsh. It is a Thursday night Game Time Decisions. Joe Ranieri in the mix. Joe, how the heck are you?
What's going on, my man? I can't believe it. It's that time of year, my man. A couple of weeks from now, we'll be rooting on the Bills, taking on the Tampa Bay Bucks in the Super Bowl. Should be phenomenal. Be absolutely phenomenal.
Now, this is where there's a world where you bet like a Super Bowl exact, and there's a world you're like, I think that would be the worst game, so I'm rooting for the worst possible game. Which world are we living in?
That's the one there. Chaos, my man. Pure chaos. Absolutely love it.
Man, I saw a post yesterday on up from somewhere, and it had the 10 most intriguing Super Bowl possible matchups, and they managed to include every team other than Tampa Bay. Like, if you're just going to make a look, the post is nonsense in its nature, okay? But if you're going to do that, you might as well just throw the Bucks in. But it is almost like, ooh, this is good. That way, if Tampa gets there, we'll get dunked on for having not put Tampa in. As much as I want to get into the NFL stuff, I'm curious, Joe, are you involved in any of these ranked American teams tonight? FAU early on right now is trailing Wichita State, and then Memphis in an interesting one against South Florida is up big.
I kind of love this South Florida team. They've been kind of flying under the radar, but the problem is they haven't really played anybody, and this is really going to be the first big test for them. And believe it or not, they didn't play in a lot of those tournaments over the holidays. So this is only their third true road game here. They've beaten up, teams in the, 200s, somewhere around there. But, Memphis is a different animal here. So I am looking forward to seeing how they handle themselves, because I do think they are going to be a good team as a dog to be able to back here in a couple of different spots.
I'm curious, Joe, are you invested anywhere in the college basketball futures market, national title or Final Four wise, or are you still kind of letting some teams reveal them true selves?
Oh, yeah, not yet. No, I mean, but again, let's be realistic here. We do this every time when we get closer to March, and we're all looking for that Cinderella. Like, Cinderellas don't win national championships. It doesn't happen. So ultimately, it's going to be North Carolina, UConn, Kansas. It's going to be some combination of there. So let's see. I mean, let's face it. A lot of us stuck a fork in UConn when Cleon got hurt and they lost a game. Now all of a sudden, now they're number one again. And everyone's like, well, what happened? Well, what happened is parity, because everybody else lost that was ahead of them. So I think we're going to have that cycle one or two more times before we can really hone in on who's got a legit shot at winning it all.
And I think, look, as always, it is about where the bracket lands. I don't want to take credit away from anybody that cashed a UConn future, mainly because I don't want everybody in the world pissed off at me. I mean, everybody had the bet. I don't know what the books were doing, and I don't know what the committee was doing. And I'll never get over the fact that Pitino's last year at Iona, we had to play the best team in college basketball in a 4-13 game. I'm a little angry about it, Joe. I'm going to be honest with you. Let me ask you quickly. I'm so angry about it. The NBA, are they on a quest to have nobody like the league? I spent many, many years defending it. The NFL's, we're off Thursdays. Tonight's national games are Raptors, Bulls, Timberwolves, Grizzlies. Like, they didn't know that John. What the hell's going on here? What is this slate of games I'm staring at, Joe?
Yeah, it's brutal. And it's been a very weird stretch of games, too, because we had, 3 the other night. Very weird games going on. Not to mention, we've got these trades happening left and right that we're going, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do? I mean, they traded the longest standing tenure there in Siakam at Toronto. What'd they do? They went out and just boat raced Miami without. I mean, that's an entire new team, Toronto here, and here we are in middle of January. And what is this Indiana team going to be? I don't know what the hell they're going to be tonight. I mean, they're not going to have Halliburton, right? Is Siakam playing? Is he not playing? What does it do to the psyche of these teams? I think it's been very weird over the last 30 days.
Yeah, look, I think it's a really good point. The Pacer stuff, really interesting. I wonder what it is as well. We're not that far removed, Joe, from when the NBA looked up at the top. It was LeBron. It was the Warriors with 14 All-Stars. And teams were like, you know what? We're better off being terrible. You have the Knicks and the Pacers buying, before we hit March, right? Before we hit February. Like, that's before we hit the All-Star break. It's different. And I wonder, because while Boston right now looks like by far the best team in the league, well, Boston, that's been the case for a while. There's a lot of Celtics fans that consistently defend Boston. It was never their year. BS. Every single season for the last half decade plus that they've been eliminated, they've been the favorite. Okay? Yep. All of a sudden, Celtics fans respect LeBron when they're trying to defend the kiddies and all the times they lost to him. It's LeBron. No. They were favorites. He's out there playing with Jeff Green. Enough. But again, Jeff Green's left. Your Miami Heat have obviously sent them home a few times during this run. Milwaukee's up and down. And nobody's going to believe in Philly probably until they do it. So I wonder if that factors in a little bit here, Joe.
Yeah, well, it does. But ultimately, I think, can we all admit, like the day of the big three, you know what I mean? It's almost feels like we can deal with a big two, and you better have some depth and some dudes who can play and fit around them. Just getting a whole bunch of stars together, Phoenix, is not really a great recipe to win a championship. I think you need to have that one superstar. You got to have that Jokic, right? You got to have Giannis. You got to have Jimmy. You got to have, Tatum. You got to have that one guy. Mm-hmm. But you need a really strong cast of characters, not just big names with big contracts. Doesn't work like that anymore. And it was unique for the time that it happened. But I think those days are over.
And again, that Warriors, the Warriors' big three was in the beginning very organic. Steph was obviously the centerpiece, but Clay and Draymond were just overachieving. Like, I don't want to call them role players to downgrade them. It's just they were perfect, right? Correct. And that took them to all-star level. And then Durant joined, and the NBA was on pause. I can't believe there are people who still defend that decision, but again, that is neither here nor there. Joe, on the chance I don't get to talk to you before any of these games kick off, is there a side this weekend that is really speaking to you in the divisional round?
Well, I think you have two almost double-digit favorites. I think one is probably going to be a blowout, and that's going to be the 49er game. I think the 49ers will win and will cover. I also think that game is going over the total. I'm not so sure at Baltimore laying the 9.5 here. I do think that Houston is an interesting mix, especially having played these guys their very first game of the season. I love D'Amico Ryans. I love that defense. And we have seen Lamar in the playoffs in years past not do very well at home as a big favorite. Not to mention, does Houston strike you as a team that somehow or another is just going to lay down? It's not Joe Flacco. I think the pretenders are all gone in this year's playoffs. You got a team, Houston, that if you're not careful can absolutely win this game outright. I think they give them a big battle. I think it's a one-score game. I don't think it's a two-score game.
I think this is the thing. I don't know if you find this stuff silly, Joe, and if you do, that's fine. But I look at these games like, all right, we know there's going to be an upset. It's just that's typically how these things work. No, it is not that Baltimore wins and the Niners go, oh, gosh. It's just the law of averages. It's that if I put the Lions, the Niners, and the Ravens in a money line parlay, it is minus 104. How many minus 104 bets have you lost in your life? Countless. I think I'm losing one as we speak on a Dawson Garcia under. It happens all the time. But I will tell you this. If you are right and the Texans pull that game out, the Packers might as well forfeit the stupid game. Like, that's just correct. How I truly feel heading into that Saturday night. I mean, that's where I think those things have that correlation. I think what's so, for me, though, Joe, early, these totals are fascinating, man. Who was coming in and betting this Ravens-Texans game down this far. C.J. Stroud, the team total 16.5 on Saturday.
Yeah, I know. Well, the weather is not great. The wind isn't going to be great. So we know that. They're expecting 15-mile-per-hour winds there. It's going to be in the low 20s. And that's all fine and dandy here. Yes, they're an indoor team, but it's going to be cold and windy for both teams. I do think it's going to be a challenge for Houston, but I am not convinced that when I see it with Lamar in a big spot, I'll believe it. Not to mention, Harbaugh just wants to get the win and move on. He's been here and does this and knows this. There are not going to be any show points here. Just win the damn game and move on. Big ask to win by double digits against this team, I think.
A lot of clock bleeding, probably in an ideal world from the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm curious if that means a lot less running from Lamar than people anticipate. Like the world where Lamar goes wild rushing is a world where the Ravens are losing this football game and it turns into do or die mode,
There you go.
which we'll have to see. Ranieri, appreciate it as always. Coming up next, back, Coach James Young, the rest of the NBA card.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
And I tell you what, there's 1,000,001 coaching vacancies right now. Brady Cannon is a candidate for the Vegas Raider job. Like there's so many jobs available right now. NFL teams are coming to the grid for our talent. So there's that many head coaching spots available right now. I'm going to submit my resume.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Back on SportsGrid. Back with Coach James Young, JY in the mix here. JY, we've got some action out early. Let's take a look here on the – where do I have to go to find this, though? Because FizDiz isn't always popping a live team total here. What was the FAU number that you played?
85.5. They got off to a slow start. They got 31 with 3:37 left to go and a half. So they still got a puncher's chance of getting there.
All right, live team total is 85.5.
So we're right there. Slow start. I mean, listen, you got to remember, folks, especially like Kevin, who took FAU minus the points. You got to remember, they gave up 63 points in the second half last game. So it could happen. I'm telling you.
That's not what I took.
I got your back, bro.
That's not what I got your back. No, you don't. That's not what I bet. That's not what I bet. That's not what I bet. I bet Davis over the 28.5 PRA. What are you doing?
Wait, hey, anyway, they're covering the spread too. John L. Davis, how many points does he have?
No, just leave it be, man. Just leave. Don't say has he scored under your breath, man. You say, is that what being subdued is? Just quiet slander? I mean, this guy's out of control. I'm going to start rooting against his picks. I'm going to have to consider it. Let's figure out what we got here. All right, what's the rest of this JY card? Let's put some eyeballs on it. Oh, look at this. Big Domas. You love this guy. Sacramento. Is this a revenge angle with Kings Pacers tonight?
No, it's just a simple fact that, I mean, it's about going back to where he played. But although Miles Turner
He's home.
This guy's killing me. All right, folks. All right, so the reason why I took this over 21.5 is I think the game will get up and down, a lot of points, but more importantly to me, Indiana gives up some of the most points to centers in the league. This is a spot here where I think game gets up and down, Sabonis gets loose. Give me over 21.5 for Domantas Sabonis.
All right, there you go. Little Domas. I'm on Fox tonight. I think Fox has to play well here. He's had 2 straight 30-plus, but he hasn't been passing enough. Can he pass it a little bit to Montes? I think that would work. Now, this is a very interesting spot for you and I. You are on OKC, so am I. But I laid the 3. Does this make you a coward?
Hey, if the money's green, you can put a yellow streak down my back. I will be a coward. I don't know, Kevin. I've gone on this thing.
Keep going. Red hot.
Usually when it's 2.5, that's my number. I've been doing this 3.5 thing now, and I've been getting away with it by, having a little bit of extra juice by taking them that way. So the minus 154, I'll take the extra 20-cent hit and just get the extra point just in case. Give me OKC on the money line tonight at Utah. And interesting thing, Kate, like really quick, what does Utah do at the deadline? Like, do they trade these guys all off? Do they they're in a tricky spot here with the 9th seed with this run they've had.
So this is the thing, though, right? Trade off who? Lowry was never going anywhere. Danny Ainge is the GM. He was never going to get a deal that he thought was worth it. If you want to get rid of Jordan Clarkson, I think you can probably do that regardless. John Collins, surprise, surprise. It wasn't all Trae Young's fault. You could probably still do that. That's kind of like, I know why you're asking it, JY, but how many tough decisions do they? Clarkson is a tough decision, right? Clarkson is probably a tough decision. I know he had the triple-double on the season, averaging 18, 5, and 4. Like, he's having a nice year. I'm not saying he's not, but I feel like the rest of it is mostly straightforward for this team. You move on from Collins, and Lowry's going absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, but I'll give you more. Chris Dunn should be moved. Colin Sexton should be moved. Kelly Olynyk should be moved. Like THT should be moved. Like, you got to start building this team around marketing, around Kessler. You and I were big fans of Keontae George coming out of Baylor when we did the NBA draft show. They got to let this kid play his 30 minutes. Get this done out of there. Get Colin Sexton out of there. And I think I'm not saying you're going to get a lot for these guys, but you're going to get something of value. Abaji, I think he should be getting more minutes. So move some of these guys out. Let these young kids play. I mean, you know how to phrase, either you're winning or rebuilding. Well, they're not going to win the West. I was just curious with their run. Does that change Danny Ainge's angle? It shouldn't, because I think if I remember last year, Kevin, I thought Utah was playing well the first half of the year until they got
yes, they were.
February, and they fell off a cliff last year.
Well, that is exactly what happened, and it is possible it happens again. Remember, this was a team that was sat at 7-16, right now sitting here at 22-20. They've obviously bounced back. I mean, they were 10-18, so I'm probably not even using the most appropriate starting point there. But they've definitely been playing very good basketball. Philly, Milwaukee, Denver, a 3-game run where they went 3-0. Doesn't even, I mean, how is that possible? But they did it. I just feel like Utah's in this spot where Ainge has obviously acquired a ton from the Gobert trade and from the Donovan Mitchell trade. I think the bigger thing is, at what point does Utah cash in? Now, you can sell off guys if you want, but they obviously have enough. This is what I was trying to... I said this to you back when we were doing a BATR in the offseason. These teams are going to sit there and wait for Embiid to request out of Philly. Now, I know nothing says he's going to do that anymore, right? They're winning. They love him. Everything's perfect. But I'm just using Embiid as an example. This offseason, people thought that could happen. Well, if Utah waits for Embiid to request out, then they're going to also wait for Embiid to drop a list that they'll be nowhere near. The same is true of Oklahoma City. You're OKC. You can keep your core together, and that's great, and it's winning, and it's working. But you also have a billion picks. And if you want to cash in, I mean, maybe now people will consider putting OKC on the list because SGA and Chet are getting more well-known around this league and a lot more desirable from a location. Nobody's putting Utah on a list.
Oh, hell.
Nobody's putting Utah on a list.
On a list? What, Carmelo coming back?
That's... But look, I'll tell you, so, you talk about the list, though, right? And all of a sudden, the Indiana Pacers are going to be locked into Pascal Siakam. I didn't get to hear your reaction, Coach, on the trade, but the biggest winner is obviously Pascal, because the Pacers now 1,000% are locked into him. And look, if you're the Pacers, you obviously want to play consistent winning basketball. Can Pascal be the number 2 on a title team? Probably not. Maybe probably a third, but he's really good. He's an all-star caliber guy. I'm not trying to downplay Pascal at all. Then you go to Tyrese, and that's the thing that I'm still trying to figure out. Because there was a moment there where it was like, oh, wow, Tyrese could be the best player on a championship team. Is that the case? That's such a big question for the Pacers still, regardless, moving forward.
Well, and I think when you look at it, Kevin, when you look at the trade, I thought it was a very good trade because I want people to realize something. When Pascal Siakam got to the NBA, he was actually more of a defender than offensive guy. He's developed his offensive game over his career. So sliding him into the force, oh, by the way, shout out to Obi Toppin. Obi went from backing up Randall to getting his starting spot to losing his starting spot to maybe getting 15 minutes a game now that Siakam is there. So shout out to Obi Toppin. You're going to be a restricted free agent. Let's see what kind of bag you get. It will not be big. Now, anyway, I think what happens here is it fits perfectly, kind of like OG matched with the Knicks, because with Siakam, now you have a guy that's a point forward who can bring the ball up the floor. So now Tyrese can run the wing. You can run action through Siakam, but he's also a great lane runner. So that lane of him, running down with Tyrese, that offense gets more explosive. But I think the thing that's also important, Kevin, is I think their defense improves immensely because they have no stoppers on this team. And Siakam, I don't know if he can guard 1 through 4 anymore, but I think he can guard 2 through 4. And the interesting thing is the GM of the Pacers was able to get Siakam, right? Only give up 2 picks. Remember, the 3rd pick came from the Pelicans. And if he wanted to go in again and make the last push, maybe in the summer, he's got Jarris Walker, he's got Bennett Mathurin, and he's got more draft picks at his disposal. He's got ways that he can take another step again if he wants to in the future.
And they can. I just think, and look, so it actually just came up when we were talking to Ranieri about the Warriors teams. And the Warriors threw off the math of what you need to win a title. That right? Like they had 4 All-Stars. The whole thing was ridiculous. Again, you'll never convince me it wasn't awful for the league. It is what it is. People can be wrong about that for as ever long as they'd like. But for the Indiana Pacers, you now do have 2 All-Stars. Make no bones about it. Pascal is an All-Star, certainly within that Eastern Conference. That is step one. It is about where they slot in. It is not different than the Knicks situation. Halliburton versus Brunson. Knicks fans would say Brunson. Pacers fans would say Halliburton. I think the people that are on neither side, you'd get a pretty definitive split. Pascal versus Julius Randle. Well, at the moment, Randall's playing good ball. The second we flip the calendar, a lot of people might abandon that take. Now, you can tell me you like how the rest of the Knicks have filled out their roster. But at the end of the day, the Knicks are in this spot now. We just had a month ago debate about, is Brunson a superstar? Is Brunson a top 10 guy? We have these debates. You have to figure it out because the Knicks still, in their heart of hearts, would love the chance to still bring in Joel Embiid. Because if they did, everything fits. Embiid is the 1, Brunson is the 2. You don't even need Randle to be the 3, right? OG then can be the 3 when your 1 is Joel Embiid and your 2 is Brunson. So that's now the question, JY, is how the Pacers All-Stars slot relative to the rest of this league when we're trying to talk championship.
I think what you look at it is those 2 teams, the Knicks and obviously the Pacers, to me, even with the moves they've made, I'm going to say it, folks, I'm a Knicks fan. They're not on Boston's level. They're not on Milwaukee's level. You know, they're not on Philadelphia's level. Why? Because they got the dude. They got the dude, and you're right. They're slotted perfectly after that. Can the Knicks go on a playoff run and mess around and take one of these teams 6-7 games? Can Indiana? I'm more concerned about Indiana doing it because I think I'm worried about them on the defensive side of the floor when the game slows down. But it becomes an intriguing thing now is Indiana and New York. Do they become desirable destinations still? Because both teams, Knicks with more draft capital, maybe you could say with Jarris and Mathurin, the Pacers more young player capital. Both teams are armed with picks or players that could be moved to take the next step. Kevin, I don't think it happens now. I think you watch for the summer. If Philly flames out, if Milwaukee flames out, if Boston, they flame out, they decide to break up their duo, I think that's more a year and away. I think those 2 teams are the teams to watch because I think they're going to make the next move. But I do think with 38 draft picks, OKC's got to make a move at some point. They got too much arsenal picks left.
Hitting a break here, though. Great stuff as always. That is Coach James Young. We got a best bet for you on the NBA side of it and send you off into in-game live right here on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
And I tell you what, there's 1,000,001 coaching vacancies right now. Brady Cannon is a candidate for the Vegas Raider job. Like there's so many jobs available right now. NFL teams are coming to the grid for our talent. So there's that many head coaching spots available right now. I'm going to submit my resume.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Live right here on SportsGrid, closing out Game Time Decisions on a Thursday night. Up next, it will be in-game live, so make sure you stay locked right here on the grid. We've got some college props that are out in action right now. We also have Bulls money line, good first quarter start from them. But my favorite bet on the NBA tonight is an ugly one, admittedly, which is the Memphis Grizzlies team total over 100.5. Memphis has actually won 3 consecutive road games as a dog now. I know one of those featured Ja Morant and the other 2 still featured Desmond Bane, but the Grizz in their first game without Desmond Bane shot under 40% from the field and scored 116 in a win against the Golden State Warriors. Memphis may do a nice job covering some numbers for a while here. With all their absences, they're forced to be booked as an atrocious team, and they probably, when it all settles, are going to be. Just there's so many injuries there. But they're in a good spot here against Minnesota because the Timberwolves are on a back-to-back, a traveling back-to-back as well. 4th time this year, Minnesota will play without rest. The first 3 times, the opponent team total comes in 3-0 towards the over, allowing over 123 points per game in that spot. Now, those team totals on average were about 112.5. So while this is not that number, they're still allowing it well through that projected number there. So I think tonight you could see Memphis get to 105, 106, maybe even 110 if Jaren Jackson Jr. can bounce back from a struggling performance that he had in the victory. Shot at 4 of 20 from the field, so perhaps Triple J can bounce back. Elsewhere in the NBA, we're laying 3 with Oklahoma City at Utah. I think it's the top of the market on the Jazz. So I think it's a good buy spot here for the Thunder, who have lost 2 in a row and have not lost 3 consecutive games all season long, as well as De'Aaron Fox over 34.5 points plus assists, a spot we've talked about quite a lot this season. Fox, when the Kings are coming off of a loss, and they're probably coming off of their worst loss of the season against the Pacers tonight at home, he gets right. I'm Kevin Walsh. That's Game Time Decisions. Good luck.